Texas Weekly, politics impacting you in Southeast Texas. I'm Kevin Steele. Thanks for joining us once again. And today we are expressing a sense of loss as Southeast Texans absorb the awful news in Arizona. A 9-year-old child killed, 5 other innocent persons murdered, a U.S. Congresswoman shot down in the prime of her life, really. Joining us today, Jefferson County Tax Assessor, Collector, and Conservative Shane Howard, activist for progressive causes Godfrey Leggett, and Precinct 27 Republican Chairman Jeffrey Lewis to talk about this. Other progressives, by the way, were invited but declined to participate at this time. Thanks, gentlemen, for coming by. Absolutely. We appreciate it. It's a little bit of a somber occasion that we do this particular broadcast on. The shooting leads the public dialogue. Did the president's conversation with America on Wednesday night pardon me, actually unify the nation in any sense? And I'll begin, Godfrey, with you.
I thought it was a good speech, and it was a very heartfelt speech, and he did a good job, I think.
Did the president help? Did America come together in any sense with the address?
I don't know if it brought people together, but I think he did a good job. I think he hit the right tone. I think he hit the right message. Part of the message in the second half of the speech in regards to our rhetoric and our dialogue, when I juxtaposed that against what was actually taking place in the days leading up to him making those comments, I don't know, I've been pretty thoughtful about what is taking place and the way that our national media enables, the way that, that certain politicians and activist groups use events to try to tar and feather another group. And we can get a little bit more specific here in a moment. But he's correct. But as just with bullies and kids that get in fights on the playground at school, it's very important that they recognize that there is a perpetrator and there is a victim when these sorts of things take place. And to just say that everything's all good and we should just get along isn't always enough.
Is America improved by the speech? Are we going to be among those people that
relating to what Shane was talking about? You know, there's not really any deep understanding of the shooter's mindset yet. They haven't released all of his writings and all of his thoughts. We don't know for sure that any of the rhetoric that bounces back and forth in the political arena affected him. But there's probably disturbed people out there that could be affected by this kind of rhetoric.
Jeffrey Lewis, some media outlets on the national level say it was a conservative. This is a man with a conservative bent who played off crosshairs on a congressional district, and in so doing, he made a decision to murder 6 people, and shoot 12 others.
The only people really making that argument are the ones with the agenda of their own. I don't think that there's any question at this point that this was a random act, that this was just a reprehensible act by someone that was quite deranged. I'm not going to go as far as saying insane. That's for a jury to decide at this point whether or not the man was clinically insane and whether or not he should be executed.
Shane, what do you make of this matter of Congressman Jim McDermott in Washington, also threatened in recent days, and now we're starting to see the accusations against the man who was thinking of trying to hurt that man. We seem to be getting to a place of a strident rhetoric in political talk that seems to be leading to some people, seems to be leading to words, at least, of violence.
No, understood. And don't forget that Representative Paul Ryan's office was shot, you know, was shot at in Pennsylvania. I've received death threats for the last year. August of last year is when it began, when I was doing a lot of media work and everything. I've gotten death threats, racist death threats. And, you know, I guess the point is, it's never acceptable. The idea that somehow that it is caused by people having a healthy debate about issues, and when you really break it down, they're going after talk radio, they talk about Fox News, they talk about various things, and it's not just media, but it's also the sheriff in Beaumont County as well, who really kicked it all off Saturday, and I watched live as he was saying some of the things that he was. It gets a little bit old that because I respect my liberty and I speak towards it, and people like Jeff, and even people on talk radio, etc., it gets a bit old being blamed that if you disagree with a certain program, you're called racist. If you disagree with certain things, you're called sexist. So that somehow we cause murder.
I'm a progressive Democrat, but I'm a fan of freedom to own guns, okay? I believe that the Constitution says exactly what it means, that the freedom to own a gun is a right under the Constitution. Now, This guy was probably a wacko nut job. I'm almost sure he was, because he had all these conspiracy theories, this, that. He wore aluminum foil hats to keep from being mind controlled by the HARP project. I mean, you see these people on TV at tea parties too, I might add. Of course, there's a wide cross section of people
I've spoken to progressive Democrats with the same thing.
Not as many, but what I'm saying is people that are like this are easily misled. Now, we don't know whether this guy was misled by the rhetoric.
And so movies that
saying
depict
that,
the
saying that if you
assassination
can't
of
win at the
President
ballot
Bush.
box, then you can use a Second Amendment solution.
I agree.
That's not right.
Finish your
So movies that depict the assassination of President Bush that wins awards at film festivals,
It's not
books
right
about.
either.
Okay, but was the outcry the same? When we had years upon years of if you oppose a program, you want children to die. If you think that you can buy your own health insurance and you shouldn't force others to,
the references,
somehow you want children to die.
I didn't want Bush dead. I just wanted him gone.
The references from the Beaumont County Sheriff.
About these things is that we somehow we want, as conservatives or as Republicans, if we think the Social Security ought to be reformed, that we want to throw grandma from the train, that whenever we think that certain poverty programs ought to be modified, that somehow we don't care about poor people, etc., etc.,
yeah, but we never hear any concrete. We never hear any actual concrete plans to put something in place of that.
Well, the Beaumont County Sheriff actually made the points in his comments. He said that Rush Limbaugh was somehow to blame.
That was one man's opinion. Okay, admittedly, what Shane was saying.
But
that
we've heard that before.
It wasn't fair
Rush Limbaugh is the source of violence in America.
No, not totally, but he could be. Like I said, if you have somebody that's easily swayed, this kind of rhetoric could have an effect on them. However, like Shane says, we should have our First Amendment rights to say what we feel. There has to be a balance in there somewhere, like not crying fire in a theater.
Who's called? And I guess that's the point. We've reached this stage now where everybody realizes they spoke way too soon, and now they just want to say, okay, everything is okay. My question is where are the apologies? Where's the identification of the actual speech that could negatively drive people to
Jeffrey, let me ask you a quick question. Has former vice presidential candidate Sarah Palin been wrongly vilified by
I think that's been going on for a couple of years now as far as Sarah Palin goes. This is just the latest thing. Kevin, I think, just to redirect a little bit of this, I don't think it's right for us to be having this conversation, period. It shouldn't be about, the days after a tragedy. It shouldn't be about, well, who's to blame, the left or right. This is, I think that's garbage. It's up to us as, common citizens, it's us as elected officials and in the media to redirect the conversation to what this is really about. A 9-year-old girl died. It's a tragedy. The person that did it ought to be punished to the fullest extent of the law. End of story. That shouldn't be anything else beyond that.
But when you are the one being accused of causing it, and you dare to speak out and say, how dare you accuse me, to be equated with the people that are accusing you, and that everybody should just stand down.
We have responsibility to change the tempo.
Our 24-hour news cycle, Jeff, drives this. Every talking head has to have something to say.
Agreed.
And they jump out there and say things before the facts are in. We don't know what drove this guy yet. We might not know for weeks or months.
And ignorant sheriffs spot out the mouth because they got a chance to be on the evening news to fill in some time for the media. But
to some extent, everybody should just keep their mouth shut.
But we have to be responsible with what we say and what we publish.
We have to take a break, gentlemen, and we'll be right back after this with more of Southeast Texas Weekly.